The pool deck erupted into laughter the moment the waitress hit the water, her serving tray still clutched in her hands, her uniform soaked completely through in front of nearly 100 guests. The man who had shoved her stood grinning at his friends, clearly proud of the joke he thought he had just pulled off. No one at that pool party expected the quiet man standing near the bar to set down his drink, walk calmly to the water's edge, and change the entire mood of the evening in a single sentence. Before we begin, if you believe standing up for someone matters more than staying comfortable, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in decency, and subscribe to Daily Kindness for more heart-touching stories. And don't forget to tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to know where our amazing community is joining us from. Layla Foster had been working private catering events for almost 2 years, picking up as many weekend shifts as she could to help pay for her younger sister's college tuition after their parents' small business closed unexpectedly, leaving the family with far more debt than savings. That Saturday, she had been assigned to a lavish pool party hosted at a private estate on the edge of the city, one of dozens of extravagant events thrown that summer by wealthy clients who barely acknowledged the staff moving quietly among them. The party belonged to Colton Reyes, a young man who had inherited a considerable fortune from his family's real estate holdings and had built a reputation, among those who worked events like this one, for treating catering staff with careless disregard. Colton had spent much of the afternoon drinking heavily with a group of friends who seemed to encourage his worst impulses, laughing loudly at increasingly cruel jokes made at the expense of anyone serving them. As Layla carefully carried a tray of drinks along the edge of the pool deck, weaving between lounge chairs and guests, Colton stepped deliberately into her path, blocking her without warning. Before she could react, he shoved her hard by the shoulder, sending her tumbling backward into the pool, tray and all, in front of the entire party. The reaction was immediate. Dozens of guests burst into laughter, some pulling out their phones to record the moment, clearly viewing Layla's humiliation as entertainment rather than cruelty. Colton stood at the pool's edge grinning, arms raised as though he had just accomplished something impressive, soaking in the attention from his friends. Layla surfaced, soaked and stunned, struggling to gather the floating remains of shattered glasses while guests continued laughing around her, no one offering so much as a hand to help her out of the water. Near the bar, a quiet older man named Richard Ashby had been observing the party from a distance, having accompanied a business associate as a guest rather than actively socializing with the younger, louder crowd. Richard, the founder of one of the largest hospitality investment groups in the country, had built his entire fortune from humble beginnings, starting as a dishwasher decades earlier in a small family restaurant before working his way up through the industry over 30 years. He set down his drink calmly and walked to the pool's edge, offering his hand to help Layla out of the water himself, ignoring the confused stares from guests unaccustomed to seeing someone of his stature interact so directly with catering staff. Once Layla was safely out of the pool, shivering and humiliated, Richard turned to Colton, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable weight that silenced the laughter around them almost instantly. He asked Colton, simply and directly, whether he found it entertaining to humiliate someone working to support their family, in front of a crowd too comfortable to intervene. Colton, caught off guard by the sudden shift in atmosphere, attempted to laugh it off, insisting it had only been harmless fun. Richard, unmoved, reminded him quietly that the event company staffing this party, along with several other vendors on the property that day, happened to fall under his own investment group's hospitality division, a detail Colton clearly hadn't known when he booked the party through an agency months earlier. The color drained from Colton's face as the implication settled over him. Richard didn't raise his voice further. He simply asked the event coordinator to ensure Layla received dry clothing, a private space to recover, and full pay for the shift regardless of whether she chose to continue working the remainder of the event. Layla, still shaken, tried to insist she was fine to keep working, uncomfortable with the sudden attention. Richard gently told her that no one should ever feel obligated to endure humiliation simply to keep a paycheck, and personally arranged for her to be reassigned to a different, more respectful client's event the following weekend instead. In the days that followed, Richard quietly reviewed the event's company's policies regarding staff treatment at client functions, implementing new protections that allowed employees to immediately end a shift, with full pay, if a client's behavior became abusive or unsafe. He also personally reached out to Layla, having learned through the coordinator about her sister's tuition struggles, and arranged a private scholarship fund through his company's community foundation, framed simply as an existing opportunity Layla now qualified for based on her employment history and dedication. Layla's sister completed her degree debt-free 2 years later, and Layla herself, encouraged by Richard's quiet mentorship, eventually transitioned into an event coordination role within his hospitality group, working her way steadily up through a company that now guaranteed every staff member the basic dignity she had once been denied at a stranger's pool party. Colton, meanwhile, found himself quietly removed from the guest lists of several venues connected to Richard's network, a consequence far less dramatic than public exposure, but one that followed him privately for years afterward. Sometimes the most powerful response to cruelty isn't anger, it's simply refusing to let it go unanswered. And sometimes the person watching quietly from the sidelines turns out to be the one with the power to change everything.